Ever wonder what Halo games entered development but were never released by Microsoft? Find out in every cancelled Halo game. Game Facts Special. There was a cancelled Halo MMORPG that was briefly playable. Plus, a Halo game for a Nintendo console, a Halo game worked on by a Hollywood director, and even a LEGO-inspired Halo game. We'll cover all of them in this episode. Cancelled certain Affinity Halo game. At some point in the drought of Halo games, between Halo 3 and Halo Wars, which would have been sometime between 2007 and 2009, representatives at 343 Industries reached out to a studio called Certain Affinity to discuss a smaller Halo game that would be digital download only. You might have never heard of Certain Affinity, but you've definitely seen some of their work. They have provided development and technical assistance on games going as far back as Left 4 Dead and as recently as Hogwarts Legacy. But the bulk of their work has been in the Halo and Call of Duty franchises, on things like multiplayer map packs. Unfortunately, despite pitching a number of awesome ideas, one of which studio head Max Hoberman still wants to make happen, the collaboration fell through when the Halo Waypoint project took center stage. Certain Affinity was still brought on to help develop Waypoint, and later created DLC for Halo Reach, and has been co-developing Halo games since Combat Evolved Anniversary in 2011. Cancelled Halo Project 2011. In the late 2000s, a separate Halo game was in development, but unfortunately got its plug pulled pretty early. Not much is known about what it was planned to be, or what kind of story it would follow, and all of the information there is about it comes from some concept art and information uploaded to the portfolio of an artist who was working on the project, Sasha Believ, sometime in 2016. This work consisted of a fully modeled UNSC frigate, as well as what looks like to be a Forerunner environment. It's speculated that this project was cancelled due to a difference in workflows between Sasha and the studio that her models got handed off to, which resulted in critical errors and ruined production schedules. Others believe that this cancelled project was an early version of Halo 4 that was cancelled due to the aforementioned issues, as well as incompatible visions for the project between creative director Ryan Payton and 343. It's worth noting that Payton left Halo 4 around the same time this project was cancelled. Frank O'Connor, the franchise development director for Halo, denies that this was the case. Halo Chronicles. The situation around this next game is pretty devastating when you consider that we could have had a big-budget Halo film, directed by Peter Jackson, instead of the Halo series that was released in 2022. In 2005, the acclaimed director of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and King Kong, Peter Jackson, visited Bungie Studios and forged a partnership with them and Microsoft, with the intention of collaborating on video games as well as a full-feature film. A new studio called Wingnut Interactive was even formed out of this collaboration to produce film-quality video game experiences, one of which was a narrative adventure game announced in 2006 called Halo Chronicles. Unfortunately, Jackson, Microsoft, and Bungie couldn't come to an understanding on a number of things regarding the Halo film, which led to uncertainty about the budget that would be required to make it. This, in turn, caused the entire project to collapse. The experience soured the relationship between all parties, and Halo Chronicles was cancelled in 2009. Dragon Tavern. We love to see a concept for a cancelled game go on to be implemented into something that becomes extremely successful, and that's exactly what happened to our next game, Dragon Tavern. After Halo 3 launched in 2007, a game designer by the name of Jamie Griesmer developed a pitch for a game that was born out of a singular need of his, to get as far away from Halo as possible in order to have new ideas. So, instead of the epic sci-fi FPS we recognize, his pitch was for a third-person online multiplayer fantasy game that would have a, quote, shared world experience, in which players would be able to meet and party up in a hub world, and then go out on missions together. Another game designer and co-founder of Bungie, Jason Jones, was working on a pitch of his own at the same time, another sci-fi FPS that would be an evolution of the genre. Bungie only had the resources to make one of their projects, and as Jones was a founding member of the company, his pitch was chosen. Griesmer joined Jones's project during pre-production and made sure his good ideas from Dragon Tavern were implemented in the new project. What did that project go on to become? Destiny. Halo DS. The notion of a sci-fi FPS on the Nintendo DS wasn't necessarily a difficult concept to grasp. The handheld's original launch came with a demo of Metroid Prime Hunters, which was an FPS that required players to use a stylus and the lower touchscreen as a sort of makeshift right analog stick to look and aim. This was janky by today's standard for sure, but it felt revolutionary at the time. So, when rumors began to spread that a Halo game was in development for Nintendo's dual-screen system, it wasn't that strange. The rumor started in January 2007, when an IGN employee named Matt Casamassina claimed to have played a prototype for a Halo game on the DS. Later on in July, Frank O'Connor and Brian Gerard of Bungie stated very definitively that, quote, there has never been an officially funded or sanctioned development of any sort of DS Halo game. In October of that same year, Casamassina demonstrated on-camera actual gameplay footage of the playable prototype. Oops. Certain aspects of the prototype that were shown suggests that it might have been a modded version of GoldenEye Rogue Agent that was created as a proof of concept. But Casamassina was adamant that the demo was created by a AAA publisher. That was the last time the project was ever seen or heard about. Gypsum. This next game wasn't explicitly a Halo title, but it was in development at Bungie, and it was affected by the whims of the Halo series. In 2003, a small internal team at Bungie, led by Jason Jones as the creative director and project lead, was working on a game that was codenamed Gypsum. It was described as a free-roam, third-person action beat-em-up game that combined fantasy and mythology. In it, players took control of a minotaur that would run around and smash things with a hammer as magic stuff happened, according to the music and sound effects producer for the project, Martin O'Donnell. Apparently, the game was a blast, and was also a precursor to games like the Arkham series, Shadow of Mordor, and The Witcher 3 many years before any of those games showed up. Everything was set, there was faith in the project, and the developers were excited to work on it. So, why did we never see Gypsum? Well, it was in development around the same time as Halo 2, which was suffering major development issues. It required a complete overhaul and retooling of many aspects of the game due to its lighting system being too complex for the original Xbox. Bungie only had limited resources at the time, so less important projects were canned, and those developers were then folded into the Halo 2 development team to help get the game out on time. Gypsum was, unfortunately, one of those cancelled games. Haggar. If you've been to a Walmart, Target, or any other kind of store with a toy section in the past 15 years, you've probably seen some kind of Halo Mega Block set. Those products are the result of a collaboration between Microsoft and the Mega Brands company, but the creative building block sets weren't the only thing planned to come from that partnership. Prior to 2013, a Halo Mega Bloks game was also in development at the Orlando, Florida game development studio, Nspace, under the codename Haggar. The game was focused on exploration, user creativity, and action, and was considered to be a AAA title instead of a smaller game. The game was never announced, despite 10 months of development time, before being cancelled sometime in 2013. Nspace was shuttered in 2016, and in 2017, gameplay from a later build of the game leaked online, uploaded to YouTube by user BTOP Online. The leaked footage showed a game that looked awfully similar to the LEGO games that were already available at the time. 343 Industries head Bonnie Ross only confirmed the game's existence after this leak. Affinity, cancelled Halo project. Details are sparse about our next cancelled title, and what we do know is perhaps even a little ominous. In April 2023, former senior designer for 343 Industries, Kevin Schmidt, posted a list of unreleased projects he's worked on in his time with the video game industry. One of those games was a game titled Affinity, which you might recognize as the UNSC starship discussed in the novels Halo Glasslands and Halo The Thursday War, before being shown in Halo 4 and its accompanying web series Forward Unto Dawn. After that tweet, Schmidt followed up to say that he spent a year of his time at Bungie, where he worked for 12 years working on whatever Affinity was, and that it is unlikely that it will ever see the light of day. He also said that the only people who would have ever been close to it would have been at E3 2015, before Halo 5 Guardians was released. And even then, it would have been without their knowledge. Hey Kevin, what does that even mean? Anyways, Infinite continues to be a specter of Bungie's past, and we might never get the solid answers about it that we crave. Monster Hunter. This canceled project might get fans of one of Capcom's wildly popular franchises pretty excited, but relax, it's only a codename. In 2001, Bungie released a third-person anime-inspired action game called Oni, which has been largely lost to time and almost entirely forgotten. After Oni shipped, the internal team that worked on it, Bungie West, was pulled on to help complete Halo Combat Evolved. Specifically, they helped out on the multiplayer component. For helping ship the very first Halo game, Bungie West was promised that they would be able to develop whatever game they wanted immediately after. So, they got down to business on a game codenamed Monster Hunter. There is literally nothing known about this, but it is unlikely that it featured massive swords and even bigger monsters. Unfortunately, Halo Combat Evolved was the juggernaut we all now know it to be, so Monster Hunter was cancelled and Bungie West was put to work on a Halo sequel. Mosaic, canceled Bungie project. In 1993, Bungie began working on a project codenamed Mosaic, which was intended to be an improved sequel to their just-released FPS, Pathways into Darkness. Bungie felt that Pathways into Darkness was lacking in a number of areas, namely texture mapping and low rendering resolution necessitated by low-end Macintosh hardware, as well as poor enemy AI. Mosaic aimed to fix all of these issues. At the same time, development also began on a game called Marathon, which Halo fans will recognize as the precursor to the Halo series. Well, when Marathon was shown at Macworld San Francisco in January 1994, the critical and fan reaction was less than positive. Jason Jones, who was splitting his time as a programmer on both Marathon and Mosaic, was saddened by this reaction, but felt that Marathon was something worth saving. So, he canceled Mosaic to work full-time on Marathon. Good thing, too. If it had been the other way around, we might never have gotten the Halo series as we know it. Halo Online. Halo Online was a multiplayer-focused shooter in development at Saber Interactive in conjunction with Moscow-based Innova Systems for 343 Industries. It was announced on March 26, 2015, with a trailer uploaded to YouTube as well as a press conference. The game was planned to have a narrative that followed the events of Halo 3 and was set in a secret UNSC facility called Anvil, where battle simulations were conducted to train Spartans as well as their new Sangheili comrades. Sounds pretty awesome, right? If you're realizing, hey, I'm a Halo fan and I never even heard of this, well, there's a good reason for that. Halo Online was really only available in Russia for a brief time before being cancelled. The Russia-only closed alpha test ran from April 6th to September 11th, 2015, with only a few active hours available each day. All player progress was wiped when the alpha concluded. The closed beta began on September 30th, but came to an abrupt halt on December 28th when a serious issue was discovered. The project languished for many months, and on August 24th, 2016, the game's fate was still uncertain. So, Innova Systems shut down the game's website and social media pages, and the game's official development continues to be suspended indefinitely. Unofficially, however, a group of modders started a project called El Dorado, which was intended to bring the Halo Online experience to fans all over the world. 343 Industries put a stop to the project, but praised the modders for, quote, giving them the kick in the pants they needed to port the Master Chief Collection to PC. The El Dorado modders were brought on in an advisory capacity for the porting process. Phoenix, canceled Bungie project. Bungie is known primarily for its shooters, but they have made all kinds of games throughout the company's history. One of their notable titles was a game called Myth: The Fallen Lords, which was an RTS they developed for Windows and Mac OS in 1997. In the year 2000, Bungie went to work on a project codenamed Phoenix, which was set to be a spiritual successor to Myth as a siege warfare RTS. Unfortunately, Phoenix seemed to be doomed from the start. In the midst of early development, Bungie was acquired by Microsoft, which resulted in the company relocating from Chicago to Seattle. About a year of development ensued at the new location, but the game just wasn't coming together despite a great concept, a passionate team, and a solid framework with Bungie's in-house Blam engine. Paul Bertone, a new developer Bungie hired after their Microsoft acquisition, credited the inability to create a bug-free prototype to a lack of leadership. Then, Phoenix was put on hiatus in 2001, so its developers could help complete the troubled development of Halo Combat Evolved. This lost some time on the project, but the Phoenix team was back as little as 1 week after Combat Evolved wrapped development. At the beginning of 2002, after Project Monster Hunter was cancelled, its project lead, Hardy Level, was assigned to Phoenix to try to get it back on track. But there wasn't much confidence in the project by that point. After another year of fruitless development, Phoenix was cancelled by sometime in early 2003. Halo Starfighter. Sometime between 2015 and 2018, 343 formed several internal teams to create playable prototypes for potential new games set in the Halo universe. One of those pitches was for a game called Halo Starfighter, which was inspired by the Long Night of Solace mission in Halo Reach, in which players piloted a Saber space fighter. The pitch was accidentally revealed in a recruitment ad for 343 Industries, but was never developed. Titan, cancelled game. With the great success of MMOs like World of Warcraft, you would think that the rich lore of Halo would also be plunged for an expansive MMORPG experience by now. And if this next project came to fruition, it would have. The project's origins can be traced back to 1998, when Ultima Online was the go-to MMO. At the time, a sci-fi MMO was pitched to Ensemble with the intention of competing with WoW. The already in progress project was combined with the Halo IP somewhere along the line, given the codename Orion, and planning began in secret. At some point, the codename changed to Titan. Titan was in full development by 2004 with a budget of $90 million. A new facility was even planned to house the project. Due to the quality of the Halo IP and Ensemble Studios, as well as the general lack of sci-fi MMOs, Titan was projected to earn over $1 billion at minimum. Unfortunately, changes in Microsoft's leadership resulted in the company taking a different direction, and Titan was cancelled without a formal announcement sometime in 2007. The planned new facility was also never built, which was a mystery until someone leaked Microsoft's intention to disband Ensemble after Halo Wars was released. Yikes. Halo Wars sequel, Ensemble. After the cancellation of Titan, Ensemble Studios went all in on Halo Wars, which was being developed concurrently with Titan. The team was excited about the game and even began outlining what would be in a potential Halo Wars sequel. We did get a Halo Wars 2 in 2017, but not from Ensemble Studios. They were unfortunately shut down during development of the first game, leaving Robot Entertainment to finish it and produce the DLC and title updates. Halo Wars 3, rejected pitch. Creative Assembly, the developers responsible for Halo Wars 2, also produced a pitch for Halo Wars 3 after the second game was released. They pitched new features like epic space battles and enhanced ground combat, but their pitch was rejected. In February 2021, 343 Industries stated that they had no intentions of developing a sequel to Halo Wars 2. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Thanks for watching. This has been a Game Facts Special.